Welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, DJ Marcotte and John Sorois. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back. John and I are really proud. We've made some significant advancements in our technological status. We have figured out how to make John louder, I think, and it was really hard. We spent a lot of hours, a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears to figure out what this problem is. And I think we figured it out.
And it's pretty something stupid. It was the back of a switch, volume switch.
Yeah, before we started recording today, I was like, well, maybe I gotta check the USB connection on that microphone. And then I saw this little thing, this little glimmer of hope, and it looked like a dial. And that dial turned the volume up on his microphone, and I think we're good to go. I'm probably still going to be a little bit louder than you, but I
think naturally are.
Yes, I have that booming, jovial voice. But it's good to have you out of the well. How does it feel?
I feel like I'm actually here now instead of like 2,000 feet away.
Yeah, I hope it comes off that way when we play this back. But it's really good to have you. We're sending our love down that well, just like on The Simpsons, and now you're out and free, and it's good to have you back. So
I felt like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah. So hate's a strong word, isn't it, John?
Hate is a strong word. Happy Mother's Day. No hate in there involved.
Oh yeah, it is Mother's Day. We'll probably catch some flack for that being recording on Mother's Day, but we did say hi to our mothers and call our mothers, and took my wife out today for some Sebago Brewing Company lunch, so we're all good there.
I plead the fifth.
We did not skirt, well, I didn't skirt my responsibilities as a husband in terms of Mother's Day. I can't speak for my cohort here. But again, if this is your first time tuning in, I'm DJ Marcotte, and this is the now sultry sounds of John Sorois.
What's up?
We can hear him, thank God. That was a huge weight off our shoulders. But we mentioned hate because we're going to talk about a little hate today. And with everything that you love, there's always a little bit of hate. Not everything's perfect. And that goes with fantasy football as well. Would you agree with that, John?
Oh, I'd agree. You're a target once you become good, and if you're great, you're even more of a target.
Well, there's definitely haters, and there's things to hate as well. And this episode's called 10 Things I Hate About Fantasy Football. And John and I compiled a list of the 10 things that annoy us most about fantasy football. We obviously love the sport of football, the NFL, and of course fantasy football. But there's some things that really grind our gears, to quote Peter Griffin. So what do you think, John? You ready to get this ball rolling?
Oh yeah, let's go.
All right.
My little Peter Griffin impression.
Is that what that was? I wasn't
horrible.
sure. That does not sound like
Okay,
Peter
that was
Griffin.
awful. It was worth a try.
Yeah, it wasn't good. So number 10. What's number 10, John?
Number 10, end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's a bittersweet moment, and that's why we've got it at the bottom of our list at number 10. It's a very fleeting season. Fantasy football is, like a wild ride. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's got its ups, it's got its downs, but it's incredibly fast, and it's over before you know it. And sometimes it makes you want to puke. So for me, we like to try to get in the playoffs whenever possible, but especially for those teams that don't make it into the big dance, it's even worse. The end of the season means that you got a long stretch before you get back to fantasy football, and you got to go through, some folks might do NBA fantasy, and some folks might do NHL and MLB. Not this guy, so I'm a year rounder. It's time to research when the season ends. What about you, John?
Me, I'm a junkie, but I actually pay attention. My most effort goes into NFL, but I am a DFS junkie, so I involve my time in the NBA. Not so much NHL, but a little bit of NBA, MLB. I would say a little bit of dabble of everything, golf as well, some NASCAR, but overall, major sport is NFL.
Yeah, it's got to be. And if you lose in the playoffs, that's even worse. I actually, in our league of record, have made it to the championship. So we have 2 championships in our league of record. One is the playoff championship, which I call the Intercontinental Championship, because that's the secondary prize, in my opinion, because the true test is the team that has the most points, and that's why we crown a Roto champion as well. So, however, although I did win the Roto championship the last 2 years, I also lost in the playoff championship the last 2 years as well. So not only did I lose, but the season was over and it was time to wait for the long wait to come back around. And it comes fast, I think. The offseason does go by pretty fast. Before we know it, we're going to be drafting in August. But it is very bittersweet.
We just mock drafted yesterday.
We did. Well, yeah, that was
It's a joke.
not yesterday. Oh, John. What about 9? It was yesterday, but so John just kind of let out of the bag that we're recording back to back, although they're going to be posted 2 separate weeks.
Yeah, all good.
But, kayfabe, man. So anyway, what's number 9?
Number 9, draft day dummies.
Well, what do you mean by that, John?
Well, draft day dummies, not coming prepared for your draft. Thing that I hate most is those owners that show up to a draft with magazines.
I thought, that's what I was thinking, the Roger Tressie effect.
Every year you see a guy with it's not even the clipboard factor that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you see these magazines, they're
You
printed
spent
May,
$12
June,
on it.
July. Well, I just got the 200-page edition of Fantasy Football Insiders, and I know every team what they're going to do.
They have their pocket protector with their
Yeah,
highlighter.
and the worst thing about these, they're written so far in advance. They don't have any training camp value, anything in them. And these people are drafting with these, thinking that
Yeah.
they found a gem.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there isn't some good info in there, but these owners that bring them, the whole thing changes.
Yeah.
They could have a guy on there that was not even on the team anymore when training camp starts, so they're irrelevant.
We had a guy that not only did he love the magazine strategy, which I wouldn't recommend for the record, but he also didn't have the internet.
Oh,
Yeah, that was Claude, right?
yes.
So he had another owner do all the adjustments
How
and the moves.
do you not have internet in this day and age?
I don't know, man. That's like, I feel like I could live without indoor plumbing, but I couldn't live without the internet. But-
He still uses a flip phone too. If that's
Does he? The Razor. Yeah.
I might have a BlackBerry too.
So when we talk about draft day dummies, this is one of my favorites. One of the big annoyances for us is when people so we do live drafts. We do not do online drafts. And with live drafts, there's really no time limits between picks. And sometimes that can get really agonizing. And the worst thing in the world is when you're like right before that guy and it takes him like 7 to 10 minutes to make his selection.
Even though the rules are posted, hey, let's try to limit. Let's do men's gentlemen or gentlemen's call picks and all that. Like, oh, you have a minute and a half or a minute. Well, 7 minutes later, supper's ready and he's still making the picks.
Yeah, do you know anybody like that?
A few.
Yeah, you got any names?
Me sometimes, but not as bad as
yeah,
some of the
actually,
others.
you
I can be bad. More in the later rounds, not so much in the early rounds. Unless a pick's really gone that I wanted.
So what are some other things that draft day dummies do that really annoy you?
Oh, how about flip out?
Yeah.
during the
Some
pick?
freakouts, some
Freak
draft day
out?
freakouts. We need to start really videotaping our draft and waiting for, we kind of mentioned him in episode 1, waiting for Noah to freak out and let that just go viral.
It was hilarious. I started the trend by picking Mariota, which was probably the worst pick that year.
So I just want to say that was very devious because I feel like the only reason you took Mariota was just to set him off. Am I wrong?
No, I actually, how I felt about Mariota that year.
But fantasy football karma caught up to you on that one, didn't
It did, and I traded him.
Yeah, he was trash that year.
He was
Well, he
trash
still
last year.
is. Yeah, not much has changed. But draft day dummies, I got one. What about the guy? So let's say it's the 8th round, and you got your list of guys that you're looking at in the 8th round. So let's say it's this year. Let's put ourselves into a draft right now as we speak, figuratively. And it's the 8th round, and I say, I'm going to select Alvin Kamara with my 8th round pick.
Oh, Captain Obvious. The people that don't pay attention to picks, they've been selected rounds beforehand. And I'm not saying everybody's going to cross their picks out, but you got to pay attention to who's picked.
Yeah.
In
it's not even-
essence, I think you should lose a pick for being so stupid.
dude, it's not even crossing your picks out. Who in their right mind thinks Alvin Kamara is still there in the 8th round? Come on, we got to do better than that.
No,
that
I
makes
agree.
me angry.
So,
That ticks me off,
or
man.
how about selecting a retired player?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Does
That actually happened.
Can I take Gale Sayers?
No,
if
it
he's still
wasn't.
available?
It was it was Lawrence Tynes. This happened in a draft that we were a part of, and some dude picked Lawrence Tynes like 2 years after he retired. So I don't think that worked out too well for him. But come on, man, pay attention. Number one, and number two, do your homework. Alvin Kamara is not going to be there in the 8th round.
I have no sympathy for people that pick somebody that's either injured or retired. I honestly think that nobody should even interject during that pick. I think they should be stuck with it. That's how I feel. I know some people don't.
So actually, we had an example of that too that we were talking about earlier. In terms of do your homework, don't be a draft day dummy. Do you remember when Jordy Nelson tore his ACL? It was his ACL, right?
It was his ACL, yes.
And he was a hot pick that year. I think he was primed. He had just broken out the year before, and a lot of eyes were on him. And one of the teams in our league selected Jordy Nelson with a torn ACL, and we didn't say a word, did we, John?
Nope, and then I caught grief for it because everybody's like, "You should tell him that he tore his ACL."
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. I mean, come on, this is a competition.
So I spend all year preparing for a draft in these so-called team girls. No offense to that, but
I'm not going anywhere near
the
that.
team was
I want to be very
two
clear that
ladies.
John Sorois made that
the
comment.
two ladies that picked them did not do their homework. That's where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about it is we spent all year, prepping not just for these drafts, but following the information.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody pick up these magazines or go to ESPN or they're not following the injury, status of people, I get if somebody's not ready the week before a draft, but when that person is clearly not playing that season and somebody selects them, I still feel that strongly that they should be stuck with that pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Draft day dummies. Don't do it. Don't do it. Number 8. You know what really, again, to quote Peter Griffin, what really grinds my gears is when my running back gets their team all the way down the field. I mean, he's just chugging along, first down after first down, and then they get to the goal line, and you're loving it because you just got all these yards from this guy, and you're about to get a touchdown, and you're about to win your week, and then...
Touchdown vulture.
Yes, the TD vulture, the infamous TD vulture. This has happened to me so many times, and it has cost me a lot of weeks. And, it's hard to predict that, too. You can't project when your guy's going to get vultured. What do you think about TD vultures? Does it make you as mad as it makes me?
It's frustrating, especially being a Dalvin Cook owner last year. How many times did you see Latavius Murray take that touchdown away?
Yeah.
So it hurts. It hurts a lot, actually.
Yeah, and then,
And it can cost you your week most weeks, too.
It probably will. That's 6
Oh,
points.
hey, Sonny Michel is inside the 5-yard line. He just drove down all the way downfield. And
That was the ultimate vulture job, and it happened like 3 times in one game. What was that fullback that did that? Yeah, I can't remember his name. That's how much of a nobody he is. But he was somebody that day. Sonny Michel's doing all the work, having an electric game, and the fullback rips 3 touchdowns from him. That's just unacceptable behavior on the part of the coach.
how many people played him?
Yeah. James Devlin. That's who it was.
James Devlin.
He was the devil. It was more like James Devil in. Sorry, that was pretty bad.
He was in.
So yeah, TD vultures, not much to say about them. I mean, it's a pretty obvious annoyance in fantasy football. There's nothing you can do about it other than just mourn the loss of a touchdown. So number 7, John.
Number 7, bad commissioners.
Yeah. I take a lot of pride in making our league as exciting as possible. I mean, we have championship belts. We have championship rings.
Trophies.
We have we make our draft day event a huge thing. We have the annual draft breakfast at IHOP up the street.
Lottery tickets.
Yeah, we have events outside of the season. Yeah, we do a year-end party, which I would definitely recommend if you want to add some juice to your league. Have a party at the end to celebrate, the year and hand out the awards and the winnings. We have a kickoff party that's coming up pretty soon here, where we actually we raffle off draft order spots. So if you want number 1 overall spot in the draft, you have to put some money down, and that money goes back into the league so we can buy more cool new things. We do a division draft, so it's kind of like a reverse schoolyard. So each division winner picks who they want in their division, so they'll pick the crappiest team first, and so on.
And that doesn't always work out.
No.
It's funny.
And, we're also always trying to change things to keep things fresh and more competitive in the league. So we take a lot of pride in it. What we don't like is, league managers or commissioners that don't have any control over their league. How many leagues have you heard of, John, where not every guy pays his buy-in, and at the end of the year, the dude that wins the championship gets $50 instead of 400 or 300 because most of the league didn't get in on this. Stuff like that really should be policed a little bit better. Don't let owners be inactive. If a guy doesn't set his lineup, there needs to be a consequence for that.
We do fines in our league.
Yeah, and we actually do. Like, if you don't set your lineup, it's like a $10 fine. So that's a little hardcore. We're not saying everybody needs to do that, but commissioners that are allowing clear collusion to go on, stuff like that, not okay, not cool. And but the biggest thing for me is make your league fun. And we actually have a show coming up on how to build a better league, and we'll give some ideas and tips on stuff like that to make your league a little bit more engaging, a little more fun. But a bad commissioner is like an absentee parent. You got to be involved, you got to make it fun, and you got to keep your owners interested and engaged.
And I think we have that in most of our leagues. I would say 99% from where we started off before. There's actually a waiting list to get in some of our leagues now.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing we want in all our leagues is competitiveness. You don't want that owner or that commissioner that doesn't have that involvement with, the team owners and stuff of making sure the right people are in it, the right people are setting their lineups, and it's being policed. I think the last few years, I've never seen such a level of involvement in our leagues as it relates to people being involved and then people wanting to get in. So
our tag team league started with 8 teams, and now we got 14. So
which makes it really hard. You're gonna be spot on with those picks.
We'll be fine.
So we'll be fine. Everybody else has to worry.
So what about number 6?
Number 6 ties in almost with the last one we just did. It is deadbeat owners.
And a deadbeat owner to me is, number 1, you better pay that buy-in. If you're in a state that gambling is legal, of course, you need to pay your buy-in. And if you don't pay your buy-in, you're not eligible to win the championship, in my opinion. That's a deadbeat owner right there. I mean, you need to pay up for this stuff. Everybody has the responsibility of paying up. So that's an example of a deadbeat owner. You got any other examples, John?
Not setting your lineup weekly, not being involved with it.
Set your lineup. Like, how is this a hard thing, man?
Oh, hey, I have 5 running backs.
Yeah.
5 are all on the injured list, and none of them are playing. They're on injured reserve for the year. So a bad owner is someone not being involved with free agency or fab.
And as an owner, and me as a league manager, don't ask me to make adjustments on your lineup. It's 2019. You can get Wi-Fi anywhere. I got people asking me, "Can you set my lineup? Because I'm not available to set it." Well, how is that even possible?
All week. It takes literally, here's the thing. Depending on the level of involvement you want to have, it should take up like 60 seconds, maybe 90 with bad Wi-Fi.
It's really...
As it relates to who you want to start, that's all up to you, but it shouldn't take longer than 90 seconds. If you're not paying attention, just put somebody in that's active. Other than that, I hate the owners that are also, Jimmy didn't set his lineup this week, and you shouldn't get involved. So the other team gets a free win?
Yeah.
How's that competitive?
Yeah. That's a deadbeat owner, man.
Yeah.
And you know what?
And the other ones that are deadbeats are the ones that allow for them not to set it as well, and they
Well, that's
interject.
That goes back to the bad commissioners, the absentee dad or mom. Yeah, you set your lineups, pay the man, do what you got to do, stay involved in the league. I mean, come on. And there's another thing that might tie into the deadbeat owners, but that's a little higher up the list, and it deserves a category of its own. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. And I think it's something that infuriates everybody, especially me, because I like to trade a lot. Actually, it's next on the list. No, it's not next on the list, but it kind of ties in with the next on the list, which is crappy trade offers at number 5.
Oh, number 5, crappy
I
trade
might be guilty of sending a few of these out from time to time.
Yes and no, but it's also what you've received
Yeah.
too. So I love when I'll give you Julio Jones for James Devlin.
Yeah.
Because Devlin had one good week.
Yeah.
Awful
Well,
trade.
I think so. I love people that try to like stack up a bunch of players. So, you know, I want DeAndre Hopkins. I'll give you.
I will take some guilt in that. I am that 3-for-1 man deal sometimes, but
Sometimes it's more than 3.
maybe it's 4 for 2.
Yeah. No, not for you, but in
But
general.
I have
yeah.
made that offer sometimes, but I'm not always looking at, and I've interjected this before. Somebody be like, it's not worth it, John. It is. If you look at the condition of their team, sometimes it is, but it also depends if the owner wants to give up that.
Yeah.
I've seen teams that
But
need that
don't
depth.
send me Chris Conley, Marquez Valdez Scantling, you know, and Sterling Shepard for DeAndre Hopkins and act like you're doing me a favor. Like, come on, man. We got to do better than that. But, you know, and there is an art to trading, and I think sometimes, you know, you have to kind of screw yourself sometimes on a trade if you have an asset that you need or a team need that you have. You know, if you need a running back and you're trying to get a guy, let's say like Joe Mixon, you might have to give up a couple good receivers, or you know what I mean? You might have to put yourself in a bad spot to fill a team need. But come on, man. We got some guys that are guilty of that. Butler's really guilty of that.
Oh, very badly.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get peppered with trade offers from that dude.
Yeah, trade me Zach Ertz for a pocket of lint.
Yeah.
It's I don't even see like the value there.
Trade me Travis Kelce for $5 and a ham sandwich. And no, we're not doing that. But yeah, there's some guys that send trade offers that they're not even worth looking at.
You're not playing with beginners, guys. So if you're
Well,
a
you
beginner,
may be, but
if you are playing with
it's
a
still
beginner,
bad etiquette.
You got to do your homework though,
Yeah.
and then these ones like we talked about that take advantage of it. I can see that with newbies, but you're talking to people that have been playing for quite a while. So it's like, why would you even entertain the idea of sending me that offer? Have you even looked at the offer you're sending?
Yeah. It's come on, man.
Sometimes I just let it sit.
So, well, I don't, and we'll touch on that later.
There's a reason why I let it sit. I'll go into that later
I
on.
at least decline it. So we're going to move on to number 4. And number 4 is something that is really difficult for all of us to deal with, and we have no control over it whatsoever. And that's luck. Do you feel lucky, punk?
Oh, I always feel lucky. I've known to have a good, what's the word I want to use for this? A good culture in this topic we're going to touch on, the
Yeah.
luck factor. It's gone in my favor sometimes, and then it's also gone against me.
It's in
But
your favor a
more in my
lot.
favor a lot.
Yeah, you're a lucky guy. You're really lucky. And I, on the other hand, am not lucky. So I have to utilize skill to win my matchups. John utilizes luck for the most part. So,
Oh, not always. That's the thing. He says that, but there is some luck involved. I'm not
but
gonna
you know,
lie.
you've seen situations where like stat corrections. Didn't you have an example of that?
Oh, perfect stat correction last year. Fighting for the playoffs, which I'll make it be known I did not get in still, even with the help. But I think it was like week 12.
And this guy's giving you advice, folks.
Week 12, I'm trying to get in. And one of the guys that is ahead of me in the standings, I think he was in 7th place or 6th place. He had a stat correction the morning after, so Tuesday morning. It caused him a loss, I believe, by like a half a point or a point. His defensive guy, and he thought he had won. So
He was so mad.
He was so mad because he didn't know. And I sent him the text. I'm like, "You do know you lost." He's like, "What?" So poor
That's bad
Jake.
luck. Yeah, that's bad
found
luck.
out the hard way, and it's a bad luck factor. I mean, stat corrections are not.
By the way,
final.
speaking of Jake, congratulations on the new baby girl, Isabella. It's a great name. Big fan of Andy Isabella, so I'm liking that name. Just as a quick sidebar. Congratulations, Jake.
Congrats, Jake. But yeah, the luck factor plays a lot into it, not just stat corrections. You could be watching Roto World News and seeing that a guy is going to play, which happened to DJ
Is
last
this the
year.
Darius Leonard thing?
And he's still bitter about it. I mean, let's not lie.
I still, for the record, even though my opponent got a free ride on a guy that gave me like 25 points a week, Darius Leonard at the IDP position, I still beat that guy, just to throw that out there.
Luck factor.
And I still won the Roto championship.
That's not a luck factor.
No, heck no.
That's a skill factor right there.
So yeah, those late inactives, and I've also, this one has hit me so many times. Doug Marrone out of Jacksonville. I'm not a huge fan of that guy because I am a huge fan of Leonard Fournette, and I've had him a couple of times in a couple of leagues.
Oh, you mean the starting, no starting, sitting,
And then
not
all of
playing,
a sudden suspended on Sunday morning. Come on, Doug Marrone. You can't do me like that. Yeah, that's unacceptable. And that caused me a loss that week.
Oh, or the matchups.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a matchup and you're like, oh, hey, this guy's facing
God.
a 32th ranked defense against the rush, and you're like, he should easily put up 25 points. Stat line after the game, -1.
Yeah.
You got negative rushing yards, jokingly, but
right.
you're baffled. You're sitting there like,
This was
what
supposed to
happened?
be.
Yeah. I was projected for 180 points,
Yeah.
which projection
Quarterbacks
guys,
do that to you a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Quarterbacks are going to be the one to really shove it, where the sun doesn't shine in terms of not matching it, not living up to the matchup expectations. They're going against this terrible defense, and then they throw 5 picks.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even them throwing the picks. It's the tip pass into the defender's hand, and you're just sitting there. It's the complete meltdown of, like I said in last week's edition, Phillip Rivers, he just implodes.
Yeah.
And it just causes your sweetest matchup to turn into the nightmare of a week, and you're closing your laptop as you're seeing your points, and you're done. You're done,
Yeah.
and you're getting the texts from either your opponent or someone in the league. What happened to the easy win? And obviously, you're not going to answer. You do sometimes. But
Yeah.
when you don't answer,
Sometimes it's just best to not press send, as Herm Edwards once so famously said. Yeah. I mean, bad luck. Bad luck. There's so many different factors to it. What about when you're going against a guy who you have the matchups in every category? Your receivers match up better, your quarterback, your tight end. I mean, you got all those green check marks in your favor. And then he has one guy, some running back, probably like a Tevin Coleman, some backup running back that gets him 50 points and he wins the week.
oh, I've seen that happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I had Doug Martin the year he exploded on
Yeah.
Oakland for 63, and I thought I was done.
If you have a trash team and you had 2 guys go off for 50 points, that doesn't mean you're any good. That means you're just lucky. And that's happened. I've been in the wrong side of that too much. So I'm calling you people out. If that's been you, then shame on you. Shame on you.
Most infuriating thing is when you see your score. I've had this happen to me too.
Oh, God.
You put up 198 points, and you're like, I'm dominating the league.
Yes. And then all of a
And
sudden.
then the guy you play, 199.6,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yep.
how, why,
You
what,
play
where?
the one guy.
And it's the last game of Sunday night.
Yeah.
And
And
let's say
you
he had Rodgers and let's say Jordy Nelson at the time.
Yeah.
Let's use that as an
Yeah,
example.
a good example.
And between them, 110 points. You're just baffled. And then he has the running back in the opposing team, has done nothing all
Yeah.
3 quarters. Fourth quarter explodes for 3 touchdowns
Yeah.
and 100 yards. You're just sitting there.
Or your whole slate of games is all at 1:00 and you got like 150 points and you're sitting pretty. See, I never feel like I'm sitting pretty. I'm the most neurotic fantasy football player in the history of fantasy football. I always expect the worst. And
That is true.
The situation that always drives me crazy is I'm sitting there with a ton of points, 160 points, and then his 4:00 guys roll in. And then, I'm getting a little nervous because he's starting to catch up to me. And then he's got like 3 guys in the 7:00 or the night game on Sunday. And he's got another guy on Monday, and he turns around and gets 162.
Or the most infuriating thing I happened, I think it was last year. It wasn't this past year. It was the year before. Going into overtime on a Monday night game, Jason Witten, 0 catches, 0 yards. And I believe Aaron had him.
Yeah.
And he catches 1 catch in overtime for a
I
touchdown.
remember
I lose by
that.
1 point. Literally in overtime.
There's so
Did nothing.
so many examples of that.
So,
We had Noel had a matchup where he was winning in literally the last play of the game. The other guy has Devin Funchess. And the catch that Devin Funchess caught literally put his opponent 1 point ahead of him, and he lost. Bad luck, man. When you have the most points in the league and you're in last place, those are hard times, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's bad luck.
And the biggest thing is, like you said, you never feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable, shame on you.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm comfortable is when it's midnight, so it's basically Tuesday morning or Monday night.
Tuesday morning is when I'm comfortable.
Tuesday morning. And I really feel comfortable if I'm looking at like 5 a.m. on Tuesday morning, if I'm up that early, or previously was working overnights. If I see that, it's final, that's when I feel better. Because I know the win is official, no stat corrections, everything's done. Never feel confident. You can have like a 150-point lead and watch it diminish literally in a matter of 5 or 6 hours or in the course of a day. It's disturbing, actually.
Yeah.
So
number 3 kind of ties in a little bit with deadbeat owners, but and obviously I think we've covered the luck factor. It definitely is it hits a nerve for both of us. So we're going to move on to number 3, inactive owners. So again, this kind of ties in with setting your lineup. But one of the things, John, I don't know why, but it really bothers me is when you have a league and it's a serious league and it's a money league, or there's a lot of pride involved, or it's a long-standing league that's been around forever. And John, let's say you're a member of that league, and I look at who I'm playing next week, and I'm really excited. And I look at Team Sorois. I mean, come on, we can do better than that. Come up with a team name. Come up with a team name.
Korean Jesus, Shotgun Samurai. I got them all up my sleeve.
So if you don't have, and we have some of those guys in our league too, take the time to come up with a team name. Isn't that a huge part of fantasy football, is the cool team names or the witty team names?
And if you can't come up with a witty team name, let's be honest, guys, you can Google it. You can rip off another team name. You don't think other people use team names.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You can Google just about any fantasy name. If you want to be creative, then think of something like My Balls Ertz.
No, it's
I'm saying that as an example.
My balls, Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz, sorry.
John. And that's inappropriate, I'll have you know. We're going to make you an inactive owner if you keep talking like that. Get your mind out of the gutter. But yeah, come on. Be active, be creative, be fun. We have events, right? We talked about the events. We have 3 events. I'm asking for 3 days out of the year. And in some cases, it's 1 day out of the year. Show up to the draft, especially. And usually, show up to these events.
Usually there's a 1 to 2 day notice. 1 to 2 month notice. 1 month to 2 month notice.
Yeah, at least.
On top of that, there's text messages, emails.
Yeah. That's just for us.
Yeah, we're not hardcore to the point. Like, okay, Jake just had a baby. That's a good reason not to be there, and we're understandable about that. But at the same time, when you've been active during the year, and then you respond, I'll be there, and then you're like non-existent. We're texting you that day, a magical unicorn visited me this morning, I can't make it. So it's like, don't give us that excuse. If you want to be hardcore, then you gotta obviously get involved more.
And this podcast is for people that are hardcore, or I guess it's for everybody. It's for people starting up, but obviously you take fantasy football serious and you like it a lot if you're listening to a fantasy football podcast. So be active as an owner. Like, we got rid of trade vetoes altogether. They don't even exist anymore in our leagues. I send you a trade, you want it, you press accept, and those guys those players switch teams immediately. And we'll get to one of the reasons why at our number 1 spot coming up. But, if there is vetoes and there are votes on trades, get involved. One of the reasons for us was because we would have bad trades go through because you needed 50% votes to veto, and only 4 or 5 guys at times would be voting.
And that's the bad part of having a veto, if you're in a league, that type of league, is you only got anywhere. In a 10-person league, I would say maybe 60%, if you're lucky, are involved.
Yeah.
So in our league, we have a commissioner.
And if there's money on the line, you best be involved. You know, that would require some attention, I would think. But yeah, like vote on those vetoes. Read your message board. Read your chats. You know, get involved. All you can do is get involved. And if you're not, then go on one of those ESPN live draft lobby things and play with a bunch of guys that are probably going to give up by week 3, right?
By week 3, some by week 2.
Yeah, well, they probably don't even get involved.
Some might
by
even
week
be
1.
involved after week 1. They just want to do that mock draft.
Yeah. So don't be an inactive owner. Don't be an absentee owner. Stay involved. So what about number 2, John?
Number 2, I can be...
Can you be guilty of this at times?
I can be guilty of this at sometimes, depending on what the situation is. But number 2 is trade neglect.
This probably, there's some debate between number 2 and number 1. This could easily have slid up to number 1 for me. And what we mean by trade neglect is if I send you an offer, whether it's a good offer or a bad offer, I try to make them all pretty good offers. But if I send you an offer, accept the offer. How hard is it? Decline the offer. It makes me so mad when people just ignore completely, the trade offers and what we're sending out there. And Andrew, my son Andrew is in the room now, and if you heard a creaking door, that was his fault, so I'll handle him later. But
yeah, I can be sometimes guilty of the trade neglect.
It
depends on the offer, and that's the thing. It's like if you want to send me that bad of an offer, I can sit there and waste my time to turn it down, but at the same time, why did you even send me that offer? Why are you wasting my time?
But I know a guy right next to me that I'll even send text messages about the offer.
Oh, I'm guilty.
And he completely ignores them.
I am completely guilty of the trade offer. The other part of it on top of it, though, too, is we just switched platforms. I was offered a trade.
Yeah.
I was not aware because I didn't notice the settings. So sometimes I'm not going to say.
It wasn't a good trade.
It wasn't a good trade, though.
What did you do, though? What did you do when you looked at the trade?
I did decline.
You declined.
Once I knew how to use the platform.
I don't, if you don't like my trade, that's fine because, in a lot of cases, I might be trying to take you to the cleaners anyway, but at least hit the decline button. None of my trades are that offensive where they should be ignored, I don't think. But hit decline, hit accept. Don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me standing there at the altar of the trade. Just do something. It's not that hard, right, John? Is that hard? Am I asking too much?
No, and I'm not the most guilty of it. I'm pretty guilty.
Yeah, I know.
There's somebody worse than me.
We do have somebody worse than you. I don't even know if Pat knows that there is we allow trades in our leagues.
I don't even know if he knows there's a podcast.
Yeah, I don't even know if he knows there's a league. Well, he knows that, but he definitely doesn't look at the trades.
He does show up for the league guys.
Yeah, no,
I don't want you to think he's
Pat's
that bad of an owner.
Pat's a really good guy, but you need to step your game up, Pat, in terms of trade offers. Just accept or decline. I mean, we're not curing cancer. It's not nuclear physics.
I think what causes trade neglect sometimes is the crappy trade offers, that topic.
Wow. We know that I don't send crappy trade offers.
But when I start getting text offers from Butler, that's usually what it has to be causing me neglect sometimes.
Well, come on, man. Every trade needs its own
when you get
little attention.
7 trades in 5 minutes and they're all bad.
Trade neglect really fires me up. So
and I get it.
Yeah.
You know what fires me up more than that is number 1.
What is number 1?
Number 1 is salty owners.
So what do you mean by that, John?
Well, salty owners, come in all shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Salty owners are the ones that, I don't want this trade to happen. It's not fair. Well, why isn't it fair? Obviously, the deals are worked out.
Yeah.
I see on paper, or not even on paper, on the screen, or whatever's being offered. It's fair and compromisable. They're salty because they think it's collusion, which 90% of the time it's not collusion. I'm not saying there hasn't been that in some leagues, but a lot of them get salty. It's like, why are you salty about this trade?
Yeah.
You're not involved in the trade. It does not affect you. If you think it affects you, then speak up. But then they don't speak up. And then there's so many different categories of salty owners.
Yeah, there's the owners that if they're not playing well, they don't care all of a sudden. I don't care. Fantasy football is not that big of a deal. I'm not even paying attention.
I'm going to be number 1 or number 2. And then where are they when the crickets are chirping in the back?
Yeah.
Oh, they have last pick. They don't have last pick. They're not even in the league anymore.
Right, that's salty.
They've left the league.
Yeah, that's a salty owner. A salty owner is you'll send the guy a text congratulating him, or, saying good game and he lost, and, he blows up on you. Like those guys, my wife and I were watching videos of guys getting mad at their video games. Like they're freaking out about Fortnite and stuff like that.
Oh, throwing the controller through the TV and the TV's down.
I'll tell you what, man, fantasy, and we talk about 10 things I hate. Fantasy football used to do that to me, and I started to take it with a little softer approach because I was a salty owner at one point,
And I can confirm that because not last year before, when I beat him in the championship, which I thought, guys, this is where the luck factor played in.
Yeah.
I was losing by like 97
because
points.
he's so lucky.
97 points.
So
Juju
lucky.
has 0 catches at the half.
And speaking of salty owners, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose.
I was salty.
I probably got 50 texts from John telling me that he was gonna lose, and every time I read that, I'm like, that just means he's gonna win.
And then
Juju Smith-Schuster, who I love, by the way, close personal friend of mine, Juju. He's a keeper on my team, so he's very close to me. And one of the reasons I went out and got him is because that sometimes if you can't beat him, you join him. So I went out and got Juju. But the year that John faced me in the championship in the playoffs, Juju had, I think, 1 point going into halftime. Oh, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose.
And then he becomes a salty owner who doesn't answer his texts when he is.
I feel like you provoked that though with the constant. Oh, I'm gonna lose.
No, I really thought I was gonna lose. When you're looking at the score and you got your last.
You should have lost because my team was better than yours.
On record, it was even better. I think 8-5 that year.
It was just a really good team.
I think you were 11-2, I believe.
Yeah.
So he had scored 200 more points than me. So deep down.
And then last year, okay, I'm gonna get salty here, John, because I get salty when I feel like I get hornswoggled out of wins here. Last year in the playoff championship, Phil brings a bunch of schmucks to the table.
Robbie Anderson.
And was Sam Darnold on that team too, or was that guy you won the dynasty championship
that's
with?
who So
it all comes back around to
I'm
bad
not going to
luck.
lie. I had Matt Stafford. And Matt Stafford's done me wonders in the past. He's not a top-tier fantasy quarterback at any point.
Yeah.
He's definitely like a bye-week fill-in, but I'm going into, I believe, the Dynasty Championship. And here I am like, no way Matt Stafford's going to do anything. I forgot who he was even facing, but he was imploding left and right.
Yeah.
So what do? I see the matchup. I don't even remember who the Jets were facing, but Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson had I think Robbie Anderson was facing one of the corners. I don't even remember what team anymore. But the guy was ranked the second worst corner in the league.
Yeah.
And I was like...
So there's some strategy there, but Ernie was probably a salty owner after that.
He was a salty owner because I don't blame him either, because here I am here goes nothing. I'm going to start Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And then what am I going to do? I'm obviously going to combine them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Stack them together because you get double points. And that stack paid off. I think Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold got me 90.
Yeah,
they went off.
That's just dumb.
I can see why people get salty.
Dumb.
That's luck, too.
That is
pure luck.
Very good luck. But some strategy behind that,
some
too.
stats in there. But, honestly, if it paid off, I win. And in 2 leagues, I believe I started Robbie Anderson. I think one was Dynasty, and the other one was the High Roller League. And then I think Phil against you and the keeper used Robbie Anderson as well.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson. Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate that. Another example of a salty owner, and I think we've experienced a lot in our long fantasy careers here, but when the league makes a decision to make a change, just live with it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of leagues leave things up to vote, and I personally do not. If a change occurs, the change occurs, and if you're not a fan of it, then there's a lot of leagues out there. I'm pretty steadfast in what we do in our leagues to try to keep it competitive. I know one year we started doing draft pick trades, and the league voted on it.
Oh, and we lost a few people that year.
Yeah, because we voted on it, and I think we had a 10-team league at the time. I think 7 out of 10 owners voted to do it. One of the owners that voted to do it was the salty owner, because somebody might have acquired 3 second-round picks that year. So I had 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks that year. And that owner got really salty because I thought I had a quote-unquote unfair advantage, but we voted on it. So if you vote on it and you lose, or even if you vote on it and you're a part of the faction that that got the successful vote, it might not work out in your favor down the road. That change may hurt you. You got to live with it, though, man. You can't get salty.
Yeah, I mean, when we expanded our keeper league, I think it was last year, I was against it. I think I was crying, actually.
Yeah, because we had to, in order to bring 2 teams on, the right thing to do was hit the reset button.
As much as I kept arguing about it, I still did it. And here's the thing. It's why did I want to fight it? And I'll tell you why I was salty. I had actually some really good keepers. Really good keepers. Because I had Juju. I had Dalvin Cook. Yeah. I was loaded. I actually have had, probably 6 keepers?
Yeah, you had Bell at the time,
I had Bell. Think. I was pretty... I had a stack.
That wouldn't have worked out too well, but...
No, I would have paid for it. But overall, I was against it because it was the first time I actually felt I had all the cards stacked in my favor. But in order for a league to grow and, change and everything... You got to put up with it or take a hike. And I didn't want to take a hike. I've been in the league, 10 plus years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of the originals. So
the OGs.
The OGs, I got to, just conform to it. And, it's something we voted on. It's not like I sat there and picking it outside his house.
Yeah. That was you, I thought. No?
What?
You were picketing outside my house, weren't you?
No. I was putting up a fight, but I wasn't picketing.
Kicking and screaming. But yeah, don't be a salty owner. Fantasy football is intended to be fun, and I catch myself sometimes, or a lot of times, depending on the week. Fantasy football is one of those things. It's like golf. You ever play golf, John?
Yeah, miniature.
Awful. Well, I guess you mini golf might apply as well, but fantasy football is like golf. It's it can be really fun, or it can send you to a mental institution. And I've been on both sides of that, but it's intended to be fun. So, and I think we all take it seriously. Try not to take it too seriously because, like the luck factor, I've always said fantasy football is 70% luck, and 30% skill. And, sometimes you can control what you can control, but you can't control most of it. So just have fun with it and don't commit these atrocities on fantasy football that we've listed here in our top 10. Don't be those guys and try to have fun with it. So what do you think, John? Anything to add to that?
No, I think I'm going to try something different for the draft approach this year. I think I'm going to bring a magazine.
Yeah, I've heard those are the new hotness. Yeah.
Also, I mean, to kind of reiterate, we didn't touch on some topics, but come on, how do you go to a draft with no paper, no notebook, no sheets, no nothing?
See, John, I got to tell you, man, that's kind of archaic too.
Well, some people use their phones now. I'm not saying
there's
some stuff
and there's
online.
some options. I mean, I'm not going to plug too many of the websites because they can sponsor us if they want. But there's websites out there that give you like draft assistance and stuff like that. It's come so far now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of what you want to use and how you factor in. But I can tell you, the magazines are like you might as well just.
And they're coming out like now, or in June, so they're not even relevant.
The one thing I didn't touch upon that really irks me about it's annoying about fantasy football.
So are these honorable mentions?
This is definitely an honorable mention. Yeah. Is the owner who pays to play.
Yeah.
And that morning you get a text message. Can you draft my team?
Yeah.
So you are now literally not drafting just your
you're
team.
Right. Yeah.
You are drafting another team.
Yeah. And we don't do that anymore, John.
No,
like both of us have decided
you
will auto pick you.
The sad part is I have actually drafted championship teams for the other person.
Multiple times.
What are those known as, DJ?
What's that?
What are those people known as, though, when I draft their team or you draft their team?
I don't know. You tell me.
Paper champions.
Well, they are definitely paper champions.
Because they didn't pick that team, and they don't ever give you the credit and say, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I just won a championship because of you.
Yeah.
Instead, they're like, oh, it's my team. Well, where were you at the draft? We did all the work.
Yeah.
And not to mention, in that part, I'm so trying to put in the work into your team to get it well balanced and make sure I'm making the right picks as a friend.
Yeah.
That, I kind of skewer my picks or I don't think right on my picks. And it's that's the thing. You balance out two teams. You're going different ways. You're losing your own judgment in your head.
Never, ever, this is another PSA from me, never, ever draft somebody else's team. You need to focus on your own team and let those guys be responsible for putting their squad together.
And I think this is the first time, like, really ever. Last year, we switched which leagues we were doing. And I think I get the deer in the headlight look for the first time ever. I just sat there.
Oh, yeah.
And DJ at one point, too, was like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
I don't like this guy.
Oh, that was the worst draft
Yeah,
I've ever had.
that
I was that guy at the draft that took forever to make a pick because everybody on the board was trash. Just absolute trash.
I agree with you. And then at the same time, switching that draft, we've always done it the other way. I think it was like the first time we swapped them ever.
Yeah.
And this was like, so it was like 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer, we conformed to doing that league.
Yeah.
And it totally threw off my balance. So when it was my pick, I'm like, ugh. I'm that guy taking 3 minutes. And then when I make my pick, I'm looking at my team like, does anybody want to buy it because this team's bad?
I took
already?
so long they were playing the Jeopardy song on when somebody was playing the Jeopardy song on their
Oh,
phone.
actually, no. You know what we were playing? You know the reference to Caddyshack. Judge Stale's there. Well, we're waiting.
And I just went all Captain America and said I can do this all day. So we were definitely a stalemate there. So I guess I was guilty of that, of being, maybe a draft dummy, maybe a draft day dummy. But I stick by my decision. In that round I settled on Russell Wilson, who I did not want.
He trades him literally 20 minutes.
I also
after the
didn't
draft.
want Jerick McKinnon, who I begrudgingly took in the second round. It's a 12-team league. And I traded before we all even left, I traded Jerick McKinnon, Rex Burkhead, and Russell Wilson for Kareem Hunt.
Who Kareem Hunt exploded.
He exploded. And then I traded Kareem Hunt before all the bad stuff
yeah.
came out. So, the draft isn't the be-all, end-all, obviously. But so we got a little shorter episode this week. And today, I think we've cured a lot of our technical difficulty woes.
If not, let us know. I think this might have been the deciding factor, but I guess we'll see. I do have a low monotone voice.
Yeah, and I have a booming voice. So they don't always translate well. Our voices, sometimes John's going to just sound lower than me, and sometimes I'm just going to sound louder than him. But I think in terms of him being us sending our love down the well, I think he's out of the well now. So hopefully that's how it translates. So real quick, just on some contact stuff, I wanted to give you guys an email that you can reach us at. At some point, we're going to want to do mailbag episodes. We'd actually like to do a listener league this year. So if any of you are interested, kind of send us a quick reason why you think you should be involved in our listener league. Probably be just a 10-team league. And of course, there's no money involved there, but kind of be fun for you guys to interact with us. So you can send us feedback on that. Feedback on the show ideas. We want this to be interactive, and we want to hear from you guys and gals. So armchairfb@gmail.com is our email address. So feel free to send us some ideas. Like I said, anything you want to interact with us on, we're more than welcome to read. And of course, also I'm on Twitter at Armchair Kingpin. John, I think, is at John2977, also on Twitter. I'm up to, I think, 22 followers, so keep that stuff, keep the good vibes coming. And check us out on YouTube. Just look up Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. We are on iTunes. I was watching my phone as we were recording here, and I saw something pop up on Spotify, so that means my beautiful wife, Alicia, is hard at work to make that happen. And I do want to thank her for posting everything so far, uploading everything so far to iTunes and to YouTube, because, I'm not, like I said, I'm not too good with that stuff. So thank you, my dear, for helping us out with that. And that's pretty much it for this episode. Again, we're going to try some new things. If you like some of the show ideas, this one really didn't get into details on stats or players, but we're trying to mix it up a little bit. So we're welcome to suggestions, and please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe on iTunes. Again, this is what we want to do for a living. We want to make a living doing this because it's what we're passionate about, and hopefully we can, entertain you guys as well. So, do those things for us, and if you like the show, and we really, 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 really appreciate it. And I just kind of stumbled all over my words and might have drooled all over myself there.
And on top of that, guys, there's no select crowd for this. ladies, I know a lot of ladies involved in fantasy leagues. Welcome to listen.
I just
like
slurped my.
else.
I just slurped my
I know it
coffee.
sounded like you were drinking the coffee through the microphone. But ladies definitely get involved.
Aroma Joe's, y'all.
I think some ladies do not get involved in sports, and I don't know the reason why.
I'm going to warn you. You're walking a fine line with
I'm
the
not,
ladies today.
It's not a bad. It's not a bad thing. I actually like a lot of the women that get involved in sports, and there's some that don't choose to. They do their thing.
I think what John's trying to say is we're for everybody.
Yeah, so don't be afraid. Like, if you're that listener that has the boyfriend, you're welcome to listen. They're welcome to listen. Your mom, your dad, your grandmother, your dog, whoever wants to listen. We're all for it. Just
your chinchilla.
Your chinchilla. your llama. I mean, everything's
Come on, John.
open.
Llama? That's ridiculous.
So, but no, definitely ask us questions. Hopefully have a good answer for you. I'm not going to lie either. I'd rather be honest. But deep down, thank you. Try to get this built up here like DJ said. So give us a follow. Give us a tweet. Give us a push. Give us a
Anything.
like.
We want to see it. Yep.
So we want to see it, good, bad, ugly, everything.
We want to know who's listening. Interact with us, and we're always available. Obviously.
And once we start getting some special guests on here, you want to see a special guest brought back possibly? Let us know. So
we got some ideas for special guests, and hopefully they pan out. And I think they'll be pretty exciting. And they might not all be guys that are from the fantasy football or football realm, but they definitely will add something to the show. I got one that hopefully I can line up right around August. That would be really, really cool. So I don't really want to say because obviously it's not set in concrete, but maybe even our kids will be guests. Who knows? Like I've talked about before, we're not trying to be smarter than the room. We are grassroots. We're the Everyman Podcast. We are no different than you guys, and hopefully you appreciate what we bring to the table. So with that being said, contact us. Like I said, armchairfb@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on iTunes. And hopefully by the time you hear this, we'll already be on Spotify as well. So several different platforms there. And, interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. We want to see you. We want to hear you because we're having a lot of fun with this. And hopefully you are too. You got anything else to add, John?
Nope.
All right. Sayonara.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks for supporting the show. Until next time.